They say history is written by the victors. I suppose that used to be true, but now everyone is a writer or can be, and even more important, everyone has a platform. It's called blogging or the internet or whatever you want. You can publish a book. So history is written daily at breakneck speed by everybody, which means, if you look a little further, there of course will be winners and losers. All stories get told, but we as a human species definitely thrive on stories. We love stories of winners mostly, but we also get caught up in stories of losers because, hey, we've all been there. So what's your story? Hey, it's Tim Patterson. This is a Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee for June 1st, 2020, almost halfway through the year that we can't wait for it to get over. But then I think, wait a minute. What could possibly be worse? Maybe 2021. I don't know. It is a very daunting year in so many ways, and I wish you well making your way through it, however you are affected by everything that's going on. You can find my books on Amazon. You can find the next great exhibit at TradeshowGuyExhibits.com. You can find my blog at TradeshowGuyBlog.com, and the main hub of all that stuff is TradeshowGuy.net. I've been thinking a lot about stories lately. Mainly because I'm writing a novel, which is kind of fun. I'm down to the last, few days before I have my third or fourth or whatever draft it is. And I've got about 10 readers that I'm going to send it to and get their feedback on. The whole goal is to, of course, make it better. I'm not a novelist, not yet. Working on it. It's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's great work. And so we'll see what happens. I can't wait to get the feedback, but we're almost there. Then on to the next step, whatever that may be. I like short stories too, and I've written a few over time, but it's been a while, and I've been thinking about doing some short stories as well. Probably not as crazy as writing a novel for 6 or 8 months. Anyway, I will tell you more about short stories when I get to this week's One Good Thing, which is a new book of short stories that I've been reading as well. I got connected to this week's guest. We talk about virtual events, future trade shows, conferences, and other gatherings. I got connected to him, Jonathan Tavss of Kaleidoko, through a recent guest on this show, Jake Gilbert. They used to work together. And after Jay and I talked, he said, you might check with Jonathan because he's been doing virtual events and just did one or is just about to do one. You just get a hold of him. So we had a nice chat, ended up scheduling an interview about a recent virtual event that he helped coordinate and about his company, Kaleido, and how they're working with companies to help plan the future. Definitely an interesting and timely conversation given what's going on with trade shows and events, which are not happening now, but will slowly come back. But there will probably be some sort of digital component along with them, and it may be very enhanced. Anyway, here's how that conversation went. I want to welcome Jonathan Tavss to the Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Jonathan, thanks for taking some time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So you're with Kaleido. It's a company that I have not heard of. We got connected through a mutual friend. And I'm just curious, what is Kaleido? Tell me about it.
So Kaleido is a company, we work with other companies around the world, but what I'm most excited about that we do is that we're futurists, and we help our clients see the future and then work their way toward it. And so as futurists, we get to look at all of these pieces of our future and how that's going to affect society, how that's going to affect the workforce. It's looking at all the pieces and seeing things differently and helping others to see things differently. And so it's just really exciting work that we're dealing with that has led us down many rabbit holes.
I bet. The future is unwritten, so I'm sure you could go in many different directions.
Yeah.
How long has it been going on? I'm just curious about the company itself.
The company was formed 3 years ago now.
3 years ago, okay.
And we've got clients in all verticals, and interestingly, I came through entertainment and global. Moved from development into global marketing and the digital realm, and doing all those cool shiny objects, and as much as just entertainment, it's really hard to get out of entertainment. It's such a part of of who I am. And so even with Kaleido, we've been working a lot in future of entertainment, but more so about the community, the fandoms, the people that are excited about these franchises, whether they're or just individual properties, right? So if it's a movie that, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, was only one movie, but an incredible fan base that had a huge impact, or franchises like the Bond franchise that we've worked on, or Alien or Star Wars, or even the promise of Avatar that I was able to be the head of the strategy globally for that campaign.
Right. Wow.
For when I was with Fox. And so it's always been about how do you facilitate the community having a relationship with the intellectual property that before technology got to where it is, it certainly didn't look this way. I won't say that it didn't exist, because one of my first shows in Hollywood was it was 40 years of soaps that we did for CBS, and seeing the fan base of the soap community, which was all about cons. Like it was.
Wow, I bet that. But that was nuts.
There was no, like, maybe there were BBS systems at the time. Otherwise you had to go and meet up with people. And that was bizarre. That was awesome. It was, I wasn't into soaps as a kid, but again, seeing the power of community certainly resonated, and it continues through.
It's funny you mentioned BBS. Just a quick aside, and I remember I bought a book on how to form a business on a BBS, and as soon as I read it and wanted to get into it, everything changed.
When you bring that up, I mean, I talk about us being futurists, and we were going around the world. We were asked to speak about what does the future hold in 2030, and we said then some of these things are going to happen before 2030, and some of them are going to happen after. But we sort of had to pick a place to plant a flag. And
we'll get to that in a little bit. I know that when we got connected, it was through Jay Gilbert, an old friend of mine, and a mutual. You worked with him, and he mentioned that we should connect because of some of the virtual events that you were kind of getting your fingers into. And I know that when we spoke last week, you had just kind of come off of one in early May. I'm curious to hear about how that went, what it was, what you learned from it, what worked, what didn't. There's a lot to pull apart on that thread, I'm guessing.
So this thing is 3 hours long, right? Or 5? I just want to know how to pace myself.
How far to go into that? How many rabbit holes do you want to go down? Okay, let's start up here and look down.
So I mentioned the work that we were doing with communities. And so we were already engaged by a number of our clients to do projects at, whether it was WonderCon in Anaheim in April, or San Diego Comic-Con that's happening or was supposed to happen this summer. And when the lockdown started, we didn't know what was going to happen, but we certainly knew that cons were going away. It might have been a few, it might have been all. It has now been that basically all of them have gone away. Some have maybe come back, but it was a move to virtual. And because of the work that we've been doing with technology in the future and looking at virtual, we had just had something published. An associate in Kaleido and I had just written a piece that was published in Asia, positing the question, are we there virtually or virtually there? And it was talking about, instead of the view that everybody has of, the full consuming tens of thousands of dollars to have that complete VR studio situation, or where you feel absolutely that you're there. Like, there's certainly a space for that, and there's some cool executions, but utilizing Zoom, you're in the same room, right? Yeah. And it really was about the visceral. So taking those things that we were already working on from the virtual realm and looking at, we couldn't bring these communities together. And in the case of these Comic-Cons being canceled, we had relationships with a bunch of vendors that were then sitting on a bunch of inventory with no way to sell it. And so our Jenny Stiven, who is our community engineer for Kaleidoko, she had already started the loose conversations with others like Legion M, like a company called Xlevelent that does a lot of parties at cons, a lot of cosplay work. And it was sort of like, hey, let's bring the gang together and just put something on. We have no idea what's going on with this virus. We just know that even if people could go to a different state to go to a con that's open, there's health risks there. There's, it's just, here's an opportunity. in our case with Kaleido, a lot of our work with the clients sort of went dormant while everybody was figuring out what's going on.
Right.
And it seemed like the perfect opportunity. We would have never thought to do this if it wasn't for the shutdown, because we didn't have the time to, and it would have taken a lot longer. And what happened is on March 18th, we all said, we had the collective, okay, put our virtual hands in. Are we in? Are we going to, and we're shooting for the beginning of May. We want to be out there. We want to, if we could be the model that others might follow, let's do it. And I was very much, again, with that virtual, I was saying, Kaleidoko is happy to support whatever, but we are not going to get as involved as you might like if we don't make this as virtual of an experience as we can. Meaning, what's the closest we can get there without being there? And it was only because of the relationships that we had from a technology perspective and clients that we were already working with, and vendors that we had worked with, that we felt we had the tools to put it together. And the main tool was a company that we were working with called Auxit. And Auxit, it's spelled AUXXIT. You can find them at auxit.com.
Right. Okay.
They came out as a product that was a community platform enveloped by commerce. So you could go into their rooms in their app that are all centered on something that people are passionate about. So whether that is, it could be Star Wars, it could be just general comic books, it could be fans of Radiohead, it could be fly fishing, it could be vinyl, it could be watches, whatever. But the whole idea that people can go in and talk and chat the same way that you would see on WhatsApp, but you don't have to know the other people first to be invited in. It's sort of like you could just see that room is there, that category is there, knock on the door and come in. It's, it's not ad supported. So we're not taking they're not taking anybody's data.
Right.
They're just trying to serve the community. And then overlaid on that, people could sell things, whether it's, I've got a collection of things that I've gathered and I want to get rid of, or it's a company that has things that are relevant to that community. And so I thought, not only could we use that as the platform for exhibitors to have their own booth, so again, going booth to booth to booth, like you were in the exhibit hall floor, we could also use the social aspect for our happy hours, for our way for the community to really come together. So it wasn't just about creating the content, and the content was, very nicely done. We had amazing talent that all agreed to do it. This was entirely free for everybody. So whether you wanted to watch the content, whether you wanted to exhibit, we didn't charge for a booth like you might at another exhibition.
Right.
It was just that Auxit was taking a reduced transaction fee. So the whole idea was nobody knew what to expect. And so that
so you didn't have a lot of expectations in that sense.
Right. Right. It was sort of like, you know what, we've got this time. And it was more about managing expectations, because everybody was thinking, oh my God, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. And it's like, we're all doing this for free.
Right.
We're all doing this to support the community. So it's what pieces can we put together to make that happen? And we ended up really having a great con for something that did not exist on March 15th and happened on May 9th and 10th. Like, it's sort of.
So this was a limited time experience. You said 2 days. Was it 24 hours during the day? Was it just a certain time during the day?
So,
and did the attendees that were going to be at the convention know about this? Were invited to that? Is that how you got people there? I'm just.
We went through. So in terms of awareness, it was all about our partners putting out stuff on their socials.
Gotcha.
We created a social footprint in a very quick time. Again, if we had longer, we could have done more programming to generate more awareness. So we ended up, from a programming perspective, we had our main program, which went from 10 until 6 on both the Saturday and Sunday. And we had after hours programming that happened after that, that was just because we had so much demand. People were saying, hey, we've lost our cons to be able to talk about products or shows that are coming out or whatever. Can we please utilize your platform to do so? And 2 weeks before we were scheduled, we were going to go May 2nd and 3rd. And and San Diego Comic-Con came out 2 weeks prior to that saying that they were canceling. So all of a sudden we had an influx of all these Hall H panels saying, hey, could we just move our panel to yours? And so then we thought, okay, let's push back a week so that we can facilitate both the right scheduling and the influx of exhibitors that now are saying, oh, we know that we've heard that you're around. What can you do for us? How can we participate? And so the exhibition hall floor was open and active 24/7.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
The content was live streamed from 10 to 6. You could
mm-hmm.
watch delayed. You can still go to virtualpopexpo.com and see the content and skim through to see, great panels, great Q&As. We could talk later about how the technology helped us to really do something cool. And, that right there is just the snapshot of
right. And it's a good snapshot, Jonathan. I know that I'm curious to know what the parties that were involved, the con, the platforms, what was their takeaway? How did they, if everyone's going into this not really having anything other than trying to manage expectations and figure out what those expectations were, what were their takeaways? You've had 2 or 3 weeks since then. What are the biggest 2 or 3 things that you guys learned?
So, the fact that we got 6,000 to 7,000 people watching just the YouTube, like the streams from YouTube. So that doesn't include the streams that came through Ogsit, because Ogsit they had to refactor a lot of their platform to service what we wanted, or what we had asked for. But part of that, as a special bonus, was that it's a fully self-contained platform for things like this now, because if there is content, panels, whatever, or pre-recorded, you can easily stream that through the platform. So while you're shopping, you can still see the video. Right. So, whereas I was thinking, well, somebody will have on their smart TV or their computer the content, and then they're going and searching on their second screen. You could have it all in that one place. So all those views weren't seen. But to have 7,000 people during the live stream was really awesome. Again, there was no platform we were building from. The fact that we had 1,000 people in the Ogsit environment, so in the exhibition hall for our Friday night preview night that was hosted by FYE, where we had giveaways and all those types of things. The conversation was fantastic. People were really excited. I've got to be honest, it was for everybody. It was a new platform to be using. So there were some vendors that came in and absolutely rocked it, utilizing all the functionality, put all of their products in. Some people were using the video thing so that they were live streaming, so that if you as a customer came into the room and asked a question in the text, they could answer by video, reading the text and answer in real time. It was really phenomenal how that all worked.
And so did some of the vendors, say, hey, we had all this product for the show, which got canceled, and we were able to move at least some of that.
Yes. So ultimately, you ask about what the fallout was afterward. We were responsible for moving over $20,000 worth of inventory, which, again, going from 0 to 100 in 6 weeks, like that. Yes, I would have loved to have moved $1 million, but again,
and like you said, we could go down and we could talk for 3 hours about this, but I want to get, before we let you go, I want to respect your time. I know you talked about, at the beginning, you talked about futurists and what's going to happen in 2030. Give me 2 or 3 things that you guys are looking at that are 5-10 years down the road that you say will happen at some point, just not sure when. I'm just curious what you guys look at that. Right.
So in relation to expos in general, I think what we're seeing now is that I'm hopeful that this is not going to replace going to conventions.
There's nothing like face-to-face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about these panels, when you're talking about these experiences, there's nothing like having the intimacy that you have when it's on your computer, if you are in the audience, you're going to have at least 20 feet separation between you and whoever is on the dais. And they're at a higher place. It's not as immediate as you with your Aunt Sally, talking on Zoom, which now a lot of these people can have that more immediate relationship this way. I don't know, like I don't want to say I don't know. I do see, or we see, that there's going to be an augmentation. So instead of just having that one camera in the back, that you will have more of these talking head things while there's still the live experience. So that, again, it provides that intimacy of the people that are speaking. There's going to be the opportunity. What really excited me as not knowing going into the show what we were going to be able to do, we were able to take people that were having a conversation in the YouTube comments. We're able to reach out to them, say, hey, you're bringing up really great questions and points. Would you like to come into the Zoom room, and then we'll feed you into the actual panel? So we had fans that were able to have in real time, one-on-one questions and answers, whatever, participation. And we had people participating from around the world, like all 5 continents were represented on screen in some cases, and certainly from viewers. So
I can kind of see, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I can kind of see like the couple of shows like Expo West, which is a big natural product show every year in Anaheim, 80,000 people show up. I can see that there could be a digital component to that live during some of the breakout sessions, as well as some of the booths could also be streaming content from their booths, and
Absolutely.
people could buy a virtual ticket that are in, they're in London or something. They can't make the show, but for a fraction of the price of being there, they could have access to a lot of the content that they would not otherwise get, which I can see, of course, the organizers would say that's another revenue stream, which, is a valid way to look at it.
Right. Yes, and yes, and yes. The fact that everything is time shifted. We're used to time shifting shows on I don't even want to say on TV anymore, right?
Yeah, right.
But the fact that just if we're looking at the Auxa platform, even if nothing is sold inside one of these booths, the fact that you can have people come in and read what others have asked prior. So you talk about the UK or you talk about Asia, where the time is completely shifted. They'll be able to come in when everybody in LA is asleep, and they'll be able to see what was asked and what was answered and all that type of stuff. They can still ask questions that can be answered, but it's still that immediate gratification as if they were there. And that's something that's really cool.
I can see that at the end of a show, when the organizers release the statistics, they can say we had 85,000 people there in person, and we had 112,000 people virtually, or whatever the numbers are.
I had a conversation with somebody with the Music Business Association, another person connected through Jay Gilbert.
Right.
And she said, when we have our conference, we have some panels that maybe get 100, 150 people in a room. And consistently they're getting 900 because they're not doing like a big conference. They're doing weekly. They'll have some big conference that'll be virtual. But again, the accessibility you can't laugh at the accessibility of this. This is really something that more people can be touched by this content. More people can connect utilizing this technology. And that's what's exciting to me is just the ability to have these relationships. And before, everybody was like, oh, the internet is so bad. Like, you never get to see anybody. It's like, now if we don't have the internet, we don't see anybody.
We don't see anybody. Yeah. Well, very cool. And I think the thing that you mentioned at the very top is that it's all about community. Every community will find their way of connecting. And this is a way to bring in whether it's natural products, whether it's broadcasters, whether it's the music industry, whether it's the comic convention people, that community is going to be able to connect. And whether they do it in person, then they will continue to do that once everything loosens up. But they will also add that component. So I think it's interesting. Jonathan Tavss of Kaleido, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for illuminating the future a little bit for us. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks so much, Tim.
And thanks again to Jonathan Tavss of Kaleidoko for joining me on this week's Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Really glad you could spend some time, Jonathan. This week's One Good Thing Before I Get Out of Here is a book of short stories called Exhalation by the author Ted Chiang. I don't know much about Ted, but this book came highly recommended. It's one of the 10 best books of 2019 according to the New York Times book review. So I thought, well, it's got to be good. And I'm about halfway through. And there's, I don't know, what, 8 or 10 stories in here. In the first couple, there's one short one, a couple semi-long ones, and I'm in a fairly long one, but it's just fascinating stuff. Makes you think a lot. Gives you good tales that you just never would have come across. So highly recommended. Exhalation. Brand new, or from last year, I guess. And that wraps up this week's Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Find me on tradeshowguy.net and have yourself a great week. Let's do it again next time around.